All right, next thing I want to talk about here, the Steelers were reportedly talking and very close to signing former outside linebacker Bud Dupree, who ends up with the Los Angeles Chargers on a 2-year deal. Was not surprised that he didn't sign in Pittsburgh. I thought a guy who's coming off 6.5 sacks, 10 sacks over the last 2 seasons, still only 31 years old, could play quality reps, and who started 16 of 17 games last season, wasn't going to come and be a fourth outside linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That being said, when Jeremy Fowler says that they were very close on inking a deal together, you got to believe that they were very close to finalizing something and bringing him back to the city of Pittsburgh. And that seems to be every season. You know, the Steelers, okay, Bud Dupree's on the market. Let's just talk to Bud Dupree and see if it works out. Doesn't happen. But it clearly indicates that the Pittsburgh Steelers want an outside linebacker and that they are looking for somebody to come in here and fill a role and, you know, be that number 4. But, you know, the way that they operated last season was all 4 of those guys contributed. So I would imagine all 4 of them contribute this year as well. Marcus Golden seems to be the next name on that list. Is he an option for you? Is he the guy that the Steelers should go out and sign? Do you think he's got any interest in re-signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I think the Steelers would absolutely be interested in him. I think he was really good in a limited role last year, and I think you bring him back to do the same job, and I think you'd be really happy with that, especially, you know, even if you consider that, you know, you assume Nick Herbig's going to take a step forward this year and be better than he was last year and play some more snaps. I think you would be absolutely comfortable with, you know, Marcus Golden coming back and playing literally the exact same role on a cheap deal. Just come in and be like a pass rush specialist when you know someone needs a blow or whatever, and you feel really, really good. It's also, you know, I think injury insurance, because Marcus Golden is, and we talked about this last year, I think he's still a guy who could start on an NFL roster. Like there's not a team out there that or I don't think it's you know, if there are 32 starting jobs out there at, you know, whatever, one defensive end spot or one edge rusher spot, I think Marcus Golden could fill one of those really competently. You know, is he a top end starter? Probably not. But if that's a guy that you can put on your bench, if you can stockpile him, if you can keep him fresh as an older guy and just say, hey, we're only using you in spots, but we need your absolute best at those spots, I think that's a perfect situation both for him and for the Steelers. I don't know if he would get, you know, crazy interest from somewhere else. So I think he'd be on a cheap deal too. I think he'd make a lot of sense to bring back for the Steelers. And I was a little surprised, I guess, that they didn't do it earlier. You know, maybe they just assumed that Nick Herbig is going to take that much of a step forward, but clearly if they want one more guy, I don't know why Golden wouldn't be one of the first guys that they contacted.
Yeah, I think Golden makes a ton of sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think he's exactly what they're looking for as an edge rusher for. Again, I mean, maybe he does get interest from other teams and has a better role. And if that's the case, if I'm Marcus Golden, I think that I'm better than an outside linebacker for. So there's no need to re-sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers as an outside linebacker for. I still think he plays a decent bit of reps, but I just don't know how sold he is on coming back to Pittsburgh. I think the Steelers would love him. I mean, everybody talked about how much they loved Marcus Golden last year. Everybody was a big fan of what he brought to the locker room and his leadership as a veteran, the way he helped Nick Herbig, the way he helped Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt. Like, he was just a guy that was a natural leader amongst that group of guys. And I think that they would warmly welcome him back to that locker room. I think they'd be big fans of him. At the same time, I don't know where they stand. I think that at this point, when we go to OTAs and minicamp, we're going to be surprised because I think DeMarvin Leal is going to be playing edge rusher. I think that they're going to test him out on the outside. I don't think he's got the frame to play outside, but I also don't think he's got the frame to play inside, and I think they're just trying to find a place for him, and I think they're going to test him out on the outside and say, okay, cool, this is good enough. Like, we'll see if he's outside linebacker for quality. He's a better pass rusher than he is a run stuffer, so he kind of fits that same role, and maybe he gets a handful of snaps. I think as a year 3 guy, you're just trying to see what works for him. But I think that's their plan right now. I do think they want to add to that group. I think Bud Dupree would have been a great addition. I think Marcus Golden could be a good addition. If neither of them work out, I could see a guy like DeMarvin Leal trying to play that role. I don't know if it works out, but at least it gives him a spot on the roster.
Yeah, I was going to say, that just feels like really reaching for, trying to shoehorn DeMarvin Leal into a spot. You're just trying to find him a position for the sake of finding him a position,
Yeah,
which I don't know if I'm a huge fan of. It looked like this guy just hasn't worked out. Like I don't think there have even really been great flashes from DeMarvin Leal like that
no,
indicate to you, yeah, this guy's got some potential. He could become something. And even if Marcus Golden was making $1.3 million last year, what even assuming that he gets a little bit of a pay bump on the open market, what is that? $2.5 million, something like that. Like it's
yeah.
still probably less than three. If you're asking me, do I sign Marcus Golden or do I, go hunting for a position for DeMarvin Leal? Do I try to make something happen for him? I feel like I'm going Marcus Golden every time. I mean, maybe I've
Yeah.
given up on the DeMarvin Leal experiment too early, but I just don't see the use in giving a guy who hasn't really shown you much over 3 years another chance to show you something that he just really hasn't done at all during his career.
Yeah, I think DeMarvin Leal was a guy set up to lose in the first place. Like when they drafted
Yeah.
DeMarvin Leal, I looked at it and said that he doesn't play in a 3-4 defense. Like I don't know why you're even trying. Like he doesn't. He's not an outside linebacker. He's not an edge rusher. He's not a defensive tackle. He's a defensive end. He's a Myles Garrett. He's a I don't know. I guess you call him a Joey Bosa. He's those types of guys. He's a Max Crosby. Like that's who he plays. He doesn't play. He's not a TJ Watt. He's not a Cam Hayward. He's right in the middle of both of those things. And if you put him in Cleveland's defense, I bet you he works out much better than he does in Pittsburgh's. And I think that they thought like, hey, who cares? Like we could just turn him into something. It could work out. Whatever. But he didn't come from that in college. He didn't play the inside in college. I mean, he tried. He did once in a while. He played the inside in college, but he was mostly just like that defensive end role. And again, that works out well in a lot of defenses. I don't think it ever had a shot to work out in Pittsburgh. And I think they're going to test him out at outside linebacker, see if it works out, see if they could get him to do something. But he's have to probably drop like 20 pounds and gain a little bit of speed. That's not going to work. You're already 3 years in. I don't have high hopes for it, but I think that's what I expect the Pittsburgh Steelers to do is to give him an opportunity and see if it works. And then from there, like I think Bud Dupree is there like, okay, look at Bud's on the market. He's gaining traction. He's got interest from other teams. We're going to talk to Bud Dupree and see if it works because it's Bud Dupree and we have a relationship with them and we think that this could be a good home for him, just like we thought it could be a good home for him for the past couple of years. And it didn't work out. And now they're looking at it going, okay, what's option two? And I think option two is testing out DeMarvin Leal. And then you go from there with a Marcus Golden or I don't know. I don't know who else is on the open market, but I would imagine there's at least somebody.
Yeah, I mean they're like the Lawsons, Carl, and Shaq that I guess could be options too. It's obviously at this point in the offseason it tends to be pretty thin, but I guess that's my next question is like how long do you wait to test out that DeMarvin Leal option? Do you wait until training camp because I don't know, there might not be options if that doesn't work out, like Golden could be signed by then. How much are you going to learn in OTAs about what Leal can do at that position? I'm just not sure.
I think you go into training camp. I think they're going to go into training camp. I don't know if I'd handle it the same way, but I think if I had to predict how this is going to turn out, I think that they go into training camp. They see if he's the guy, much like they did Marcus Robinson last year. Is Marcus Robinson good enough to be inside linebacker 3? Is he the guy that's going to come in here behind a Landon Roberts, behind Cole Holcomb, and be that guy? And if he's not, then they're going to go get a Quan Alexander. And I think they're going to look at it and say the same thing about DeMarvin Leal. Is he good enough to be a contributor for 15 snaps a game? If he is, cool. If he's not, okay, we're going to go get if Marcus Golden is still out there, Marcus Golden. And I don't know who else would still be out there. And, Carl Lawson's a name that Mike Tomlin loves Carl Lawson. But I don't know if he fits it either. Like he doesn't play that same position as well. I think he plays it much better than DeMarvin Leal does, and I think he could adjust better than DeMarvin Leal does. But again, I don't know. But still, that could be a name. You could go out and find somebody. You could go out there and get anybody who's just like, okay, cool, sounds good. You're an upgrade. You're a veteran. You could adjust. That's good enough. We feel confident in this. But if I had to say how I expect it to go down, I expect DeMarvin Leal to get a shot in training camp, and then they kind of take it from there.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I also, that would not be how I would approach this, to be quite honest. That feels like a very, I don't know. It feels kind of like I guess not the linebacker situation from last year, more closer to years past. But like I think we talked about this maybe last week, where the Steelers make a lot of moves where it's like, oh, this is good enough, you know. And
Yes.
I'm not. I worry about the depth if TJ Watt's got a couple bad injuries over the past couple years. It hasn't always kept him out for terribly long periods, but he has had to miss some time, and I worry about a situation where it's like the inside linebackers last year, where you're down to trusting Mark Robinson a lot more than you would want to because of
Yep.
injuries, and you didn't really seem to have that great of a backup plan going into the season to begin with. So I think you just got to be, at least in my opinion, more prepared than that. And I don't know if DeMarvin Leal counts as being as prepared.
No, I don't think it does either. And I think that they saw what 4 outside linebackers does last year. Like I think they saw that and they said, "Oh, this is nice. This is good depth. This is guys that we could rely on week in and week out. This keeps TJ fresh and Alex Highsmith fresh." And I think they saw the benefits of it. Again, I don't know that they have the options. I think that I don't know what their plan was. Like I thought that they would have had somebody by now, but maybe they don't. Maybe they want to see. Maybe they fully trust Nick Herbig to just be the guy. They don't need a fourth. Who cares about a fourth? But again, just like you said, somebody goes down. You're in a situation where you wish you had that fourth, and I think the Steelers could find themselves in it. But again, that's where they stand right now, and I don't expect anything to change by the time we talk on Wednesday, or by the time we go to minicamp, or by the time we head to Latrobe. I just think in that amount of time, they're going to see what they got and the guys that they have, and that's where they stand. And to be honest with you, I could also see them, kind of testing out Logan Lee on the outside. I
Okay.
don't know if that works out either, but at least he's an Iowa dude. Iowa dudes tend to work out in Pittsburgh's defense, and I think that maybe, but I don't. Again, I think that comes after DeMarvin Leal, and I don't think it's a good option for the Steelers whatsoever. Whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm not super sold on it at all. Logan Lee's interesting. He's another, but he's also like that feels sort of like Liao, where they were like,
Yeah.
oh, he has versatility. He can play anywhere on the line, and that
Yeah.
that does worry me sometimes when a rookie shows up and they don't really seem to have a position.
No, exactly. Everybody needs a position, and like it just like you said, never seems to work out when you don't, and you don't want to toss those guys in there. Again, I think Iowa's defense matches a lot more than Texas A&M's did, but I still don't know if I'm bumping them outside and then thinning your depth on the inside to kind of make that move. Don't feel good about it, but we'll see what happens.